Tig Notaro, you co-created and star in the series One Mississippi on Amazon, and it's partly autobiographical. So what first inspired you to turn some of these experiences from your own life into a series?
I think that when the show first started, it was just during a time period when my story had gone viral about my life falling apart, having health issues, and my mother dying, and all that kind of stuff. And it just was the topic that everybody seemed to be interested in. And I ended up doing a book and movie and all that, stand-up performance. And the TV show just was a whole different way to tell the story. And the fun part about One Mississippi is that everything else has been completely true. Whereas One Mississippi, I get to fictionalize things, and I'm not quite sure even where my story is going, or it's all based in truth, but it spins out, you know, with the help of other writers in the writer's room, and just letting go of the truths of the story.
And how is that experience different, being able to, as opposed to, previous instances where you've basically been speaking straight out of your own life, to be able to kind of fictionalize things and kind of go in different directions? Is that a liberating feeling, or is it a daunting experience?
No, it's actually really fun. It's, I've kind of gotten to the point 4 years later where I'm a little tired of telling my story. But it's not that I don't ever want to talk about it again, but the TV show, like I said, we've been picked up for a second season, and I have no idea where my story's going. And I think the first season, I did have this tendency to feel a little protective of the truth and characters. And not that I threw everybody under the bus or did anything weird, but the more I let go of the truth in every aspect of my story, it became more exciting to me. And but there was definitely a time where it was a little harder, and I'd say yes to something, and we'd move a little further, and then something would come up. I'd be like, oh no, that wouldn't happen, or that didn't happen. And then I'd realize, oh, we've moved beyond that. And so once I went with it, which I feel like now I'm 100% going with it, it's just so much more fun.
I wonder if maybe there's even also a sense where, having the distance of fictionalizing it, does it also kind of almost give you, more freedom to be honest about certain things, or to be open about certain things, having that, having a little bit of a creative distance from it, of being fictional?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's ways that I've told the truth about something, but maybe it involved other people. So I didn't want to just be reckless with their life. And so there's a way that I can kind of bury aspects of the truth with these fictional moments or characters, and still feel like I was telling something that's true and real, but it's a different topic or a different person, or it's really complicated, but oddly freeing and therapeutic. And I've felt so lucky to have this opportunity to create this world. And a lot of times people will think, oh yeah, I know your story, I read the book, or I saw the movie or whatever, and I'm like, no, you should watch the show, because it didn't follow that whole timeline throughout.
You co-created the series with Diablo Cody, who wrote Juno and created United States of Terror before this. How did you two end up working together on this show?
Well, I was a big fan of the movie that she did with Jason Reitman called Young Adult. I just was such a fan of that movie, and it had Charlize Theron, and I thought the comedy and drama, the way it was done, was just so great. And I don't watch a lot of movies, but I've probably seen that movie 3 or 4 times. And I don't know, she was just somebody I thought I would talk to, and we got along and connected, and we wrote the pilot. And but she doesn't write anymore beyond the pilot. We just wrote that one episode together. And now Kate Robin, who is she was a writer producer on 6 Feet Under for the whole run of the series. She came on as a showrunner, and she's been the person that's really steering the ship. And she's just brilliant. She's so amazing.
And 6 Feet Under is a really good example in a way for this show because of the way it blended a lot of dark material with a lot of a lot of comedy, a lot of absurd humor around that dark material. Did that make it easier to kind of approach a lot of this more difficult subject matter in that sort of comic framework?
Because Kate had done that, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure, but also I think this material just really speaks to Kate, and she had told me that when she heard about the project, she was trying to get on board and be a part of it. And I think it's just kind of a great little cherry on top that she worked on that show. But I think even if she hadn't, this stuff really, really speaks to her.
In the last several years, recently, there have been a number of comedians who have brought their unique points of view to TVs and streaming shows, like Aziz Ansari with Master of None, and Louis C.K. with Louis, and of course Louis is an executive producer of this series as well. Were you inspired at all by that wave of comedians all kind of doing a lot of personal work on TV these days?
Oddly, no. It's funny. I've been asked that question, and when I've been interviewed in previous years, before even 2012, when everything fell apart, I would always talk about how I'm so much more drawn to drama and documentaries, and I don't really follow comedy. I think that if I'm on a show with a comedian, I'm familiar with their stuff, but I don't like their stand-up, but I don't necessarily follow the TV shows or movies. And so for me, it was just more of a real show that there's comedic moments to it, but it is so dramatic, and that's just what has always been something that spoke to me. And I've never been a comedian that's been trying to get my own sitcom or following whatever wave is going on in the comedy world. I think that things lined up for me in a really timely manner that my kind of show would make sense, or that I would get a show during a time that Amazon and Netflix and those kind of outlets are going on, because I don't think there was a world for me to have a show before.
Amazon and Netflix have really kind of revolutionized the way content is put out there, not just because they're streaming, but because they made so much so much available and available to so many different artists. Was that a lot of creative freedom? Being at a service like Amazon, where you're not like looking at Nielsen ratings week to week and wondering if you're going to get to make episode 5 if episode 4 does well or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I and just on a weird note and level, I enjoy that. It doesn't really appeal to me to be in front of the masses, so I kind of like that I get to fly under the radar a bit on Amazon. I'm sure they want it to be, to the masses, but I'm enjoying it while people are still like, I don't have Amazon yet. But it is really, really nice that they're nurturing these different shows that couldn't possibly be anywhere. And yeah, I guess they're interested in quality shows and critical acclaim and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know what I would do if I had that sort of pressure on me to worry about numbers.
And other than the experience of being able to fictionalize this show, is there, does it otherwise feel markedly different to tell a show as sort of a producer and an actor, as opposed to telling, doing stand up, telling your stories on stage in front of a live audience? What's that different experience like creatively?
Well, I mean, with stand up, I have a very basic outline of what I might talk about on stage, but I can scrap it all and just improv and not know where things will go in the entire show in that moment. Whereas even if I don't know what season 2 will be like for One Mississippi, we can't scrap it all on camera while we're filming. We definitely know where this is going once we're in production. And I think it's just, it's a more thoughtful, calculated way of expressing myself or telling a story. Whereas in stand-up, a lot of times I'll get off stage and somebody will ask me a question or repeat something I said, and I'm like, did I said that? I don't even remember saying that, And with the show, it's been a completely different experience for me, because to go back to Kate Robin, she spends so much time with word choice, and I'll think that I have my lines down and I'll go on set and say them, and it turns out I missed a word, or I did one word wrong, and she wants it a specific way, and so it's so different, and it's a growth. It's the parts that are hard that I'm not used to from being so improvisational on stage in my stand-up. It's a learning curve that I'm really open to, and I'm looking forward to the next season to see how much better I can be at being as calculated and I can't think of the word, but structured and prepared and all that kind of stuff.
Your character on the show, she visits her hometown in Mississippi after the death of her mother, and one of the most fascinating relationships on the show is between you and John Wathan, who plays your stepfather.
Yeah.
Tell me about casting him and working with him together to create that really kind of really funny but also really kind of dark relationship sometimes.
Well, I mean, it's very loosely based on my stepfather, and I wanted to take my stepfather in real life is way more, he's funny and he knows when he's being funny, not just like, oh, what a funny guy, but he's funny, and he's, over the years, he's gotten softer, but I wanted to take the more removed and stoic side of him and really play that up, because my stepfather has also really opened up since my mother died and since I got sick, and his life changed so drastically. And I wanted to show a character grow and change, and even show that there's ways that they will never grow and change. And I wanted to start with this very, very hardcore removed guy. And there are, like we've said, these are real, some are real moments. having me get my mother's furniture out of the house right after she died, you know, just really telling me we're not related anymore after my mother died. Those are real things where I was like, oh my gosh, this is brutal. And people, it's funny to see, you know, where people think things are real or made up, and a lot of times they're off by a lot. But being on set with John is, I get so excited when I get to do a scene with him, and he's so fun to write for. And when we're in the writer's room throwing out ideas, it's just like, there's subtleties too that are just delicious with his character. Whenever people bring up the show to me, they're always like, oh my gosh, that guy that plays your stepfather, he's so great.
As you mentioned, One Mississippi has been renewed for a second season. Has work really started well underway with that? The writing process, the story development of that.
You know, when the show came out I think it was in September of this year, since it came out, I watched it start to finish a couple of times, and I took notes, and as days go by, I still revisit the notes, and I'll be like, oh, I want to add this person, or I should tell this story or this flashback or something. And we haven't started actually writing yet, but that's been a process of January 3rd, we start back in the writer's room. But until we go back in the writer's room, I'm constantly writing down little notes to bring into the writers. And it's really so fun to just present these ideas and moments and characters in the middle of the table like a feast, and just see the writers go after them and just be like, oh my gosh, that's such a great idea, or that's, you know, they're so talented. I'm so lucky. My wife, Stephanie, is a writer and actress on the show, and she's so good too. We have an amazing group.
Well, the show premiered in September, and then a few months before that, there was another sort of major career event. You were nominated for an Emmy for writing your stand-up special, "Boyish Girl Interrupted," which was also very personal. What was it like being recognized for that and that experience?
Well, I didn't expect. I know people say that all the time, but I really didn't expect it because. Well, it was funny because when I first did the special, people were like, oh, see you at the Emmys. And I was like, that's hilarious. And then there was, I'm not going to go into specifics, but I was basically told that there wasn't a push behind my special for the Emmys. And so I thought, wow, okay, well, I guess it won't be considered for an Emmy. And even though there was so much talk about it before, come to find out no one was pushing it for an Emmy. And then I just thought, well, I guess I won't be up for one, which is fine. It's not why I did it. And then I was sitting at home, and my friend, we were texting, and he said, oh, and by the way, congrats on your Emmy nomination. And I was like, I wasn't nominated for an Emmy. And he said, yeah, you were. And I was like, no, I'm positive I was not nominated. And then he sent me a link, and I was like, oh, I had no idea. So how did it feel? I was shocked. And I'm saying this very authentically. I didn't expect it, and I was genuinely shocked when I was. But I can also very genuinely say it was an honor to lose to Patton Oswalt. I just think he's brilliant, and I don't know that he's ever written anything bad. So, yeah, he's the best to lose to. You can't argue. You can't go, he doesn't deserve it. He's not the best. It's like, yeah, he is. So.
Well, I want to congratulate you again on that Emmy nomination, and on One Mississippi, and on upcoming season 2 of One Mississippi. Knock on wood, maybe we'll be seeing you back at the Emmys next year. And Golden Globes in the coming weeks, and SAG, and like so many awards happening. People can send you links whenever you're nominated for something.
Yeah, I'll have to text my friend John and see if I'm nominated for anything.
Well, best of luck on all that, and thank you for for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you. See ya.